I just have completed my grandfather duties, and the kids are safely at home. The grandkids are. And today, what I want to talk about is where we are, and what we need to pay attention to. First of all, the hi Hater, hi Redmond. The the holidays for the Swiss, I guess most of the Swiss anyway, are going to be over on tomorrow, Monday. And so everybody ought to be back. Hi, Steve. And so what I'm going to do is that tonight I'm going to compose an email to Nicholas and see if we can get any updates. Now, he's just coming back from vacation, and I'm sure he's got a mailbox full of stuff. But there were some that came to me that were CC'd to me and him, and then there was an automatic um, email back saying we're on vacation and we won't be back until the 14th. Wait, what is it today? Today's the 12th, 13th, 14th. They won't be back till the 15th. So we can expect them tomorrow. Boy, I got to get my calendar, my Gilbert calendar updated. Okay, so that's one thing. Metalim had sent the note to finalize the dial, and I immediately requested an invoice because I want to get things paid off, so we know where we stand. I mean, it's I don't want to end up owing more than we have available. Um, Homer, how are you? Robert, good morning. Um, that's Nigel, isn't it? Nigel and Graham. Hi, Graham. Um, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a request to um, Nicholas. I'll CC a copy to Madeline, and I'll do that. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to ask about the completion of the movement so that the rest of the watts can come together. I know that Nicholas had told me that they weren't expecting to get the key gear, the Agonies A's gear, until August 31st. That didn't happen. Uh, I'm hoping to have a revised shipping schedule. Obviously, the shipping schedule would have been, I think it was July and August. At the end of this month, we would have been shipping to the Asian, Canadian, and Australian group, but that's not going to happen. But we don't know what it is, and we won't know until I guess Aganor knows. Okay. Any other questions or points or anything that you guys have before I go on with this kinds of things? Or hi, Pasha. Good morning to you, Donald. Anything else that is pending? Okay. Let me go on here. I'm going down a list that I have for us. Um, After the revised shipping charge, the next 2 weeks, um, this is going to be critical simply because we have to make as much noise noise as possible about our watch, and it's getting to be known now. Um, for a lot of indicators I've been picking up, one of the things we have a direct link to the GPHG page, and the first link goes to the French, and then there's a link from the French to the English, and the English just went over 800. Now there's another link to the larger one that I had made, and that's gone over 2,500. So I think that we're penetrating at least that's on that indicator. Now, another indicator, and the reason I had a picture of the Instagram logo was that we've been doing pretty well on that, extremely well. Unfortunately, I'm not that savvy with Instagram, but I'm learning how to be, and a bunch of people are beginning to ask me more and more questions on that, and I'm starting to post stuff. Rick has a big number of followers, and he's really been posting a lot there. So has Chris. Chris is located in Hong Kong, and he's been doing a lot over there. So that's a good thing. I mean, and another, let me as a reminder, we don't say anything bad about anybody else's because say something bad about somebody's watch and they're going to have friends that'll, pay back. So we don't say anything bad about that. Now we in 2 weeks we'll know one way or the other. Um, okay, so that's why right now we need to do that. Keep doing it as much as possible. So any suggestions on that? Any further suggestions? I've done everything I can with YouTube and Facebook, which I'm a little more competent with. But I quit using Twitter a long time ago. So that's another source. If people have are on a Twitter feed that is primarily toward watches and the hashtags, I'm not sure. I know about links, hashtags, or something else that I'm not quite sure how they function, but I think they're important. So if you know about those things, you know how to work them, go ahead and do as much as possible. I think we might have some more pictures that we can start, quote unquote, leaking out, and because there's a lot of people interested now. Um, One other thing, Hater here. Where's Hater? There you are, Hater. Hater's got a website for us. It's a great website, at least as far as the link is concerned. It's lyrique.ch. So if you want to say anything about that, Hater, feel free to jump in. Um, I used to do stuff with that all the time. I haven't done it in years, though, so I'm gonna leave that to somebody else. Um, Probably a few like myself do not have Instagram or Twitter, so it makes uh, that site a bit difficult. Yeah, I understand. I have, but there are 50 of us, and so we don't. As long as the guys who do have those things use them as much as possible. Even I've been using Instagram. Quite proud of myself. Um, okay. Let's see. Hater. Okay, any suggestions? I'll get up a link to the GPHG page. Okay. Not sure how you do that. Oh yeah, yes I am. From your point, that's easy to do. What we ought to do is have some kind of if you can have a picture and then have the link embedded in the picture, that would help. I think that'd be very cool. And but thanks for getting that going. I'm like I said, I used to do that stuff all the time and write code for it, but haven't done it in years. About been retired for about 5 years now, and anything that looks like work. So anyway, thanks again, Hater. Okay, so between now and September 1st, we got to give it all we can. After September 1st, if we make nominations, they're going to be 30 people. We don't know who they are, and I think that the people that we know in Switzerland. I don't know. Are any of you guys members of the GPHG? Any of you? I know that Matu and Nicholas and Lauren and Jean, Mark are all members, and I'm sure that a lot of the guys who worked with us on these other things, like Boot and Lannon and Caton, have been they they hooked up with my Instagram feed, and I'm pretty sure they are. Here's something that you can do if you haven't done it. Go to GPHG and sort around and look for. Um, Give me a second, and then I'll find a link, and it's a link to everybody who is in the organization. Let me see, academy members. Here we go. This copy. Um, okay, I'm going to this is the link. This goes directly to Academy members, and there's, I don't know, 300 or 600 of them. I have no idea. I haven't counted them, but they're the ones on this initial cut. And so if there's anybody, go through there and see who we know. And of course, encourage them to, just let people know about our watch. I think that's a big thing. Any other ideas along those lines? Okay. Well, if you come up with something, let us all know. You can, that would be helpful. Okay. Um, okay. Any other thoughts on how we might go about promoting it, you know, without spending any money? Because I've seen some ads that have gone out for some of the other competing watches, and they're very professionally done and everything, but I don't know if their information content is any greater than what we have. We've got these great graphics that Matthew did for us. The write up that Owen did was great. I was reading this. If you haven't read Owen's write up, take a look at that at the GPHC. It's really is. If anybody bothers to read it, I think it would be very impressive. And I think that if somebody is going to be a judge, obviously they will read it. But if they're just one of the sort of the major ones, I don't know whether they will or not. But if you take a look at it, there might be some ideas out of it that you can get to promote it and so forth. Okay, anything else? All right. One thing I wanted to a couple things, I guess. There have been a whole lot of people contacting me and say, "Hey, they want to get a watch," and you can't get one. We sold out. I have told them that there are some members that might want to sell who got some extra ones and may sell them to them. And at some point, once everybody has their watches, we can, have that go. The So, and they wanna do go to the next, level. A lot of them wanna be members of, Lyrique, and this one guy said it's sort of funny way, but he says, "Are the books closed on Lyrique? It sounds like the mafia." I've been watching old reruns of The Sopranos. Oh, yeah. I don't know, what do you guys I think the last time we talked about it, we wanted to sort of lock it in as a number we have now, 50. Actually, they're 51, maybe 52, because um, remember Monier? I don't know. Is Monier still part of it? Chris was the guy who replaced Monier when Monier decided that he just didn't want to deal with this. And so I put Chris in for it. And then, of course, we have Beverly, who was there all along, but she was part of a two-person deal with Steve. So, anything on that you have any further thoughts on that you might have? Um, yeah, rancher. Yeah, it's sort of my thinking too. What I've got to do, I wanted to ask you guys about it because I got to get to our lawyer and say, hey, this is because everybody who was in our group is in our lawyer has it as we have the I don't know the rights to use Lyrique for a watch thing in Switzerland. Okay, let's see what you got here. Shame he left as he had some good ideas. He did. He really did. It wasn't over the ideas. I've talked to Monir since then, uh, and he just was. He didn't like all of the arguments and discussions and so forth. But looking at it from having survived faculty meetings, this is this is nowhere near as hostile as those things can get. So I'm not really I think we've done a pretty good job. One thing I think Monir really wants, he wants to deal with a much smaller group, and that's something that we might want to talk about. Um, what is the total number we're looking at for Lyrique Etude? You mean the number of watches to sell, or the number of members, Steve? Um, I don't know. I don't know whether he's getting a movement or not. Did he? He. I don't think so. If we go to 100, who gets in? I don't know. I think the two things that we can have. Yeah, that's a good question too, Radman. Um, Here's where we are now. In fact, I was thinking for tomorrow's sort of my more general video talking about groups like ours and getting watches. Um, the there's We can keep a small core, okay? And by a small core, I'm talking about the 50, 51 that we have now, okay? And then we can have any number of people who want to be a part of a group purchase. That was sort of my feeling, and that way, I don't know, that might help. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Some people who want in on a group purchase may wanna have a voice in it too, and that's another thing we gotta sort of figure out. Um, Radman and, Mr. Gumby, Graham, um, in terms of decisions, in a way, a decision making is based on really two things. One, and it's been very important to us, is a consensus. The other thing has to do with what we have done is sort of like, well, we'll ask Nicholas or we'll ask Matu, and I think that's sort of a good way to go. And then we sort of get together and decide. I know it's not as efficient as a Weberian, you know, uh, bureaucracy, but it's I don't know. It just feels like more like the right thing to do. And I don't know if I'm the best judge of that or not. I understand organizations inside and out, but I don't know if something like our group that we've done and successfully accomplished, if we'd ever want to go to something with so much structure that we end up with, some small group. Um, in a way, we have a small group now. Nicholas, Matthew, and we always sort of tumble things out, muddle through, as I think the English might say. But that may be totally wrong. And if you guys want to go for a different structure, let's see what it looks like. Do we have any estimates of time and expense involved in either doing an iteration of E2 or going in another direction? Uh, have we asked Nicholas or Matthew of whether or not we should redo the dial in the hands of the E2 number one? No, they've been on vacation. So that's one of the things. See, Clyde, my own feeling is I think we can sort of discuss it among ourselves, but as far as I'm concerned, I want all concentration of Nicholas and those guys to be on our watch, on our current watch. So we have to get our mitts on. And then we can start, opening things up again. Um, but until I mean, we don't have a single watch out of production yet. And so I think it would be wise for us, and I think it would also give uh, Agenor a better idea of what it would take, to do something like this. So I don't know. That's if you guys have some other ideas of what to do that would be helpful. I'm all for it. Um, okay, Robert. This is about the challenge watch. This is something that's come up. Um, Here again, the challenge watch was one that we were thinking of doing with Crenode. Bob was Robert was sort of doing more stuff about it. Uh, some people don't want to have anything to do with Crenode, but Crenode is by Francois Jean Francois Mojon. I mean, so he's not some kind of second-rate watchmaker. And so because of that, I think we ought to give it, this might be sort of a thing we could do. Entering the Grand Prix, I'm finding out it's pretty expensive. If we do get it, I got to, we got 6,000 Swiss francs for putting it on a world tour. I've got to go over there, which is another $1,200. Staying there is another $1,800. So there's a lot involved in it. But I thought, well, we might as well take a look at something that maybe somebody who lives over there could go to the thing for a challenge watch. Uh, 100 of the Crenode 102s would go for roughly around it's 900 and something dollars per watch per movement. And then if we could talk to, and I mean really talk to the guys at Rutenland and Kalen, and maybe come in with something under $1,000 for a and with 100 we have a little more leverage there, and ask them saying, hey, could you guys put together something for us so that we could get it for under uh, 1,000? So here we're talking about a watch without that has both a movement and a case for around 2,000. 3,500 is their top, and so getting a dial and hands isn't going to be that much more expensive. Same thing with a buckle and band for it. I don't know. These are things that I do want to talk about. I just I it sounds like there's another reason for it too, and that is to let in more guys who don't have a lot of money. I mean, that's not that we're a bunch of rich guys, but still, around 8,000. I think once everything is finished, is what we're going to be paying for this first watch. And with the Zulu hour, that may go up again over. That may be a little higher. We'll see though. But if we have 100 people in the purchase of it, then the unit price may drop. We'll see. This is one of the things we're going to have to find out, and this is why, with a lot of the details that really we're thinking about right around the first of the year, or at least maybe getting getting really doing it after the GPHG on November 10th. How we just structure decision making. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's but like I said, let's take a look at some structures. Right now, our structure, and especially with 50 people worldwide, we're part of the structure is the internet. We have the pure horology page. We have the 6801 page. These are two parts of structure. One is sort of a an incubator, and the other is where we for those who are actually building the watch can get together. And then we have a mirror of the 6801 page on WhatsApp. And that's pretty much the structure right now, and the rest of it is that we hash out. So if you guys are looking at some other kind of structure, just let's see what it's going to look like. Yeah, Paul, we could do that. This is something else, though. You know, we have to make some of our own decisions for in terms of taste. Um, I I don't mean that in terms of that Matthew wouldn't, but Matthew, I've seen some sort of fantasy ideas that he has that are, they more look like Urwork. They're not, but that's I don't know. I think that we started off with sort of an image of having something looking like the Dufour simplicity, that kind of simplicity, that simple, good watch type of sense to it. And I think we accomplished that. And I think that we should do more like that. But I think that we need to have sort of something as an organizing concept that we can give to Matthew. Now, once we give it to Matthew, then that's when he can say, well, what about this and what about this and what about this? This is what he did last time with what was that thing called? Sort of a picture thing, and we had all these pictures, and I don't know. I think that I don't want to. I we could set up a junta and do it. I don't know. It's whatever you guys want. I think though we got to be careful about it. We can't. I if we look at traditional organizational units, okay, um, they don't have a watch like ours, and we do. Okay, to me, that's. I mean, look at all of the stuff that we've done. That we get these crocodile tears when we say, "Yeah, how come you don't have a new movement?" With some of the traditional watch companies. Oh, it's cost too much and it costs $10 million and yada yada yada. We've got one, and we don't have a president and a vice president and so on and so forth. Now, if you guys want to do it that way, you could. Oh yeah, I know. Hater Crenode was. They also in Chopek. They've done a lot of the movements that are underlying a Chopek. So yeah, they're very good. See, this is the thing. I think if we're smart, and I think as a group we are, we went for the very best. That we didn't make any shortcuts. We're going to say, well, let's get a cheap this or get a cheap that. We could have done that, and we would have probably had fewer headaches in terms of getting everything we wanted. And then on top of that, um, both Matthew and Agenor gave us more than we asked for. my God, that case, I mean, we would have been happy with sort of a plain vanilla case that, was looked nice, but we ended up with this totally new look for a case, which is, we all ended up really liking. So I think but we had we sort of planted the seed. And if we could come along with a seed, then we have something concrete rather than just sort of like, you know, you guys figure it out. I think we ought to figure some parts out. And because that's what we did, and look what we ended up with. Okay. Anyway, I tell you, I'm not saying let's not change anything because I'm all for improvement, and we may have to improve as we get bigger and uh or have more watches. But until we can't move forward with under the current structure, I think we ought to keep it until we have one that we know works better, and we have to know why it works better. Um, you know, to me, the easiest thing in the world to be would say, "Okay, rancher, you're the king now, and Beverly will be the queen of the organization or something like that," and sort of sit back and watch the watch made. That's what we do already. I mean, that's the way things are in our watch buying. We say, "Well, let's see what they got." And we become very passive in terms of getting exactly what we want, unless we're loaded, and then we can go out and have something bespoke done for one watch and spend $250,000 and say, "Look what we have." But I think what if what we can do is sort of keep people involved, yet keep the project moving ahead. That's the hard part, is to keep it moving. And I think that, Monir hit something that he just didn't like. And from what I understood, he wants a smaller group. By the way, that reminds me, the smaller group he mentioned, and this may be of interest to some people, not me, but some people, and I can see why they wanted to have an Agengraph chronograph and make one of those. And Monir was talking about maybe 10 guys or something like that getting together and having something like that. As far as I'm concerned, that's okay as long as it be okay with Agenor. I don't know how they'd feel about that. But, you know, some of the things I think we're going to have to deal with. And, you know, okay, any other ideas on that? What about the idea of having something for a larger audience, namely something that's under $3,500 or $3,500 Swiss francs, including VAT, which we're talking about maybe I don't know 3,300 or something like that, um, and have the movement by a good movement maker and the rest of it. Now, there's this guy Miguel who has this thing called that Robert has been communicating with. It's called Develop Your Watch. His, I think, if you just say, okay, give me, a menu of stuff that he does, you don't end up with what you want. Uh, if you, but I do think if we said, hey, this is what we want, and this is how we're going to do it. And if this group paid you let's say $3,300. Could you do it and deliver it? And do it in a single payment so there's not some big pain in the neck for someone doing the banking, or let McGill do the banking and let that be his pain in the neck. And that would be a pretty, I think, relatively easy thing to do. But, what do I know? Yeah, Paul, that's the same thing I was but thing is that we're at sort of an interesting situation. We know more than most customers, and the reason we know more than most customers, we went through every part of it. Most customers don't, and sometimes they end up with things that are, pretty much like everything else. If you look at a lot of these, I don't know what are they called, these group funded micro brands, and they have all kinds of weird stuff, and I don't want to be associated with them, and that's why I would prefer to keep it just with good movement. But it doesn't mean that we have to have things that are dirt cheap or by untalented watchmakers. Yeah, I know. Rancher, what ideas do you have? Nigel, we're going to exploit our own movement. Yeah, we do have our own movement. Okay. Well, I think it's a good thing that we're thinking about it, and we'll see what we'll do tomorrow. After I get a hold of Nicholas, assuming that I do get a hold of Nicholas, I'm going to put it up on both the 6801 group and on our WhatsApp group too. He is interested in getting his name out there. I mentioned the need for Lyrique branding as not his company. He was open to the ideas. Um, uh, oh, what piece am I wearing? This is my H. Moser Center Seconds Endeavor. It's the name of it. Okay, Robert. Let's see. Yeah, he wants to get his name out there, but see, the thing is that he's also looking to have this is to Robert and Miguel. Um, I think he has to learn how to work with groups like ours. We're not just any group. We're special in the sense that uh, we do want the quality. We're not going to take some off the shelf schlock looking dial and case. But we also know that if we negotiate with the right people in the right way, we can get a case and a movement that would be far enough under $3,500 that two things would happen. One, we could enter it into the Grand Prix in the challenge category, and two, he could make a profit. Those are, I mean, and then so we don't have to do all of the kind of sort of grunt work that we normally have to do. That's pretty much it. You're going to discuss these ideas with Nicholas. Um, well, what I what I'm going to do, Clyde, is that what I'm going to discuss with Nicholas right now is getting our watch done. Period. But I think that we need to discuss a lot of these other issues for the next watch we're going to be doing. And especially since the simplest thing to do is simply be do one more of the same watch. Uh, but I think right now we can look at 3 possible watches. One definite, and that would be the Zulu, um, hour watch. So we've had a lot of ideas about that. The second would be, the Guilloche version of a with a new dial and new hands, new I mean, like Breguet hands, and with a Guilloche dial for the Etude One. I don't mind calling it Etude 3 or 2 or whatever we want to. If you look at other models by other watch companies, you're going to find a half a dozen different models with exactly the same movement. And so it's not like committing some sin. It's simply giving it another character to it. Um, so these are things, we got time now because I don't want to have one foot into these all of these different elements and not having finished the one that we're working on now. I think that's going to be very important. Robert, you're right. And so the thing of it is, Robert, especially if we make it to nominations, we've done things that a lot of other companies haven't done, a whole lot more. And so I think we will have a little more leverage in terms of getting what we want. Now, I know that this is Miguel hasn't been dealing with people like us, and we're going to help him deal with people like us. I think that we should do that. Nigel, would the Zulu be based on the 6801? I don't know. That's one thing we don't know, Nigel. We don't know. What I'm going to do with that, I, I don't think so. I think we're going to end up with a new movement on this one, and I'll tell you why. There are a lot of things that we're going to have to kick around on that. First of all, and we talked about this last time. If anybody says, put on the brakes, don't do that, I won't. But when we get to the point where we get all of this, our first watch all done, what I'm going to do, I'm gonna show them those two versions that we had. These are just and explain, these are just sort of general ideas we had, and we want to have a uh, what amounts to a dual time zone watch, but we're using sort of the pilot terminology of Zulu time for it. But it's the same thing as a GMT, but not the same in sense of the sort of the style we have it because it's going to be a pilot's watch and say, here we came up with a couple. What do you think? One is a jumping hour, and the other one is a retrograde. Now, one thing that Nicholas did mention about that, I mentioned it, and it was sort of both off the top of my head and off the top of his head. Says, well, we'll just put uh, another dial in there, so you have three dials, and I guess probably be the bottom one or maybe the top one, and then have another um, sector, and so it would go around every 24 hours like the hour hand would, except it would be indicated 20 from 0 to 24 for a Zulu time watch. Now that was something that he mentioned, but um, some people had asked about a jumping hour. Say, wouldn't a jumping hour be cool? Okay, so I put that in. And the retrograde, same thing with the retrograde. They're famous for retrograde. Dagenor is. And so I thought, I think that'd be a lot cooler. Now that's my idea, and some other people liked it, some didn't. So and then if I go to Nicholas about this, I'm going to say, what do you think would be that you guys could handle? And they're probably going to be putting it on the 6911. That would be my guess, but I could be wrong. Homer Nigel. He's so I think it's going to be something. This is again where our the wisest thing I think we can do is ask Agenor, ask Nicholas. See, here's the way that Agenor is set up. Nicholas is sort of the administrator of the whole thing. He's like the CEO. Lauren he builds the things, and it does a very good job of it too. Because remember when we first asked about having the 6801, we didn't call it that. We didn't know what it was. We just wanted a 3-hand watch, and we were showing the 6911 with those funky hands and all of that other stuff that they had that was done for Fabergé. Well, they couldn't sell us that because that was Fabergé's, and so they had to come up with something that was unique, and that was the 6801. And not only was it unique in the sense that it had more hands, but it was unique in that they also added the Agenais gearing to it. So when we go to them for depending on what their recommendation, whether it's a jumping hour retrograde or simply putting in another hand that would, cover 24 hours, something like this guy. You can't see it very well, but up at the top, I had it upside down. See up at the top how they have that little subdial. That's 24 hours, and so that is a second time zone, and they might recommend something like that. In fact, here's another possibility. They could say, well, we could put it on the 6801, and instead of having a second hand over at 8:30, we could gear it down to an hour to 24 hours. I mean, there are all kinds of possibilities that we could do with it. So in terms of, is it going to be based on the 6801? I'm thinking probably not, but it could be. So we'll see. Does that make sense to you? And again, I'm talking out of, I don't know. I mean, this is from what we do know. I think that probably a reasonable thing to talk about. Like I said, the big focus I think that we want to have is on getting our watch done, and then maybe if there's a point where Lauren doesn't have anything to do, Nicholas's brother, and Nicholas is scrambling to take care of all this other stuff. Maybe they would maybe you ought to ask Lauren about it and see what he says, and maybe he would do something up. Okay. Well, like I said, I think the big thing is for us to, as much as we can, getting word out about our watch. Any way that is, I think that would be helpful that you can think of. Go ahead and do it. And like the other thing we got to remember is, because I'm looking at these watches, and if I had to put them up like this and say, oh, well, ours has this and this one doesn't, I could do it all day long. I could do it with everyone that entered and show that ours has more than they have. But I think what we can do it with is simply show what we have and not mention them and let them come to the right conclusion. Okay, anything else you guys that we need to kick around right now? Anything up? Okay, well, like I said, I'm going to put a little video together tomorrow, a little for Monday, and it's just going to show sort of trying to get a more structured view of what we actually did. And here's the thing: other people can do it too. We're not the only group of watch collectors, and more power to them if they can. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, take it easy. Come up with something. We can talk about it on 6801 group or on the WhatsApp group. Take care.